Now we'll head to South Africa now. Over there, the rand's 2 months recovery has stalled, fallen as much as 7% against the dollar as the resurgent currency and rising U.S. bond yields limit investor interest in emerging market assets. Now, the rand is extremely vulnerable to global mood, which is still cautious as investors try to predict the direction of policy for developed market central banks, especially the U.S. Federal Reserve, which has stated that its interest rates decisions will be data dependent. The rand is trading at 18.6 rand to the dollar, and that's why we're going to have our next conversation. Dumisa Bonke is an independent economic analyst. Is joining us from South Africa. Dumisa, thank you so much for your patience and thank you for your time.
Yes, good evening to you and your listeners all over the continent.
Absolutely, Prof. Now, let's begin with the rand's rally against the dollar, which we see appears to have been short-lived. What, in your opinion, are the drivers weakening the currency?
There are a number of reasons for this, but it was not really expected. It came too quickly. One, the hobbling Chinese economy, and people just thought if ever China is now battling like this is going to be the trend all over the globe. And then the US has got its own momentum, despite it, will come back to this one of it being downgraded, despite it being downgraded by Fitch. But the US economy seems to be really buoyant. It's really attractive to many people, with jobs being created, and it does not look like the US will have any problem with a recession at all. It looks like it is just going to withstand all the pressures. So many people are now buying the US dollar again as a safe haven. But coming to the South African domestic issues, the South African trade deficit was bad, and we saw for the first time in a very long time, there was a decline in the number of exported motor vehicles from South Africa, and many people are reading too many things into that. And then lastly, which is very regrettable, the reckless political chants and rants by Julius Malema of the so-called economic freedom fighters, and the equally reckless responses to that by Elon Musk of all people, and John Steenhuisen of the opposition party Democratic Alliance. So they created a situation as if there is political uncertainty in South Africa, and anytime you create a condition, just a perception of economic uncertainty or political uncertainty, the rand really gets affected, and that is what has happened.
Now, speaking of the rand's response to events, particularly global events, global and domestic events, really, the U.S. credit rating has caused markets to stumble, and recently released job data. What does this tell us about the global economy and its impact on the rand?
No, I don't think that what has happened with the US credit rating is anything really to write home about, because they downgraded them from AAA to AA plus. So it's effectively the same thing. And I mean, some of us are dealing with junk status from one period to the other. So it was just a historical thing. I mean, one of the reasons cited has been that you've had a number of times in the US where it was all down to the wire, where the president and the Congress were not agreeing on how much they're going to place their credit limits and and push up those levels for the national federal fiscus. So those are real historic things. So
I
it's,
see.
in fact, you should have expected the rand to strengthen then against that minor issue
Indeed.
about
Now, Prof, speaking of expectations, quickly tell us, what does the future look like in the next week, perhaps in the next 2 weeks for the rand? What are you seeing?
I don't see the rand strengthening quickly for one reason. Some of the problems we have were caused by the weaponization of the US dollar due to South Africa being perceived as being pro-Russia, etc. So until we have the BRICS gathering, I think you always have some of these continued challenges to the rand.
I
After
see.
the BRICS conference, we expect the rand then to recover and go back to the levels where it was at the beginning
Well,
of
we'll
this
keep
year.
monitoring the situation, and thank you so much, Professor Dumisa Bonke.
Thank you.